We're really excited now to transition into a section of our material for the next couple hours. It's later on the East Coast, later it's also on the Pacific time zone, and then around the world for people that are watching it, it's a variety of times. But we're going to go into a series of segments now where we're going to be featuring some of folks who have really inspired us in our work. They're people that we're building relationships with, educators from trips that we've done or that we've gotten to know over time. And in one instance, the director of our Action Academy program at Common Power, Larcy Douglas, and she will be bringing with her some of these incredible young leaders in the space. So we're going to have several hours of this, which I don't want to compare any of the segments, but I'm pretty sure this stuff is going to be unbelievably inspirational in here. So I'm going to hand it over to Charles Douglas, who's the executive director, and who's going to share the space for the next half hour with Jeffery White, who is a teacher in New York City. So I'm assuming that you two are ready to take it.
Yes, there we go. We're ready to go.
Mr. Hey, Jeffery, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How you feeling? It's nice to see your face again.
It's great to see you. Sorry, Charles. I just had to say hi to him.
No, it's good. This is what we're going to talk about because you two are on this learning tour together. And you know, I'm going to let you go, David, because we gotta give you a break. But I did want to ask you how you're doing so far. A quick check-in.
I'm doing really great. I'm finding this experience because I'm dialed into each segment. I'm finding it to be incredibly stimulating, like this is like speed dating, right? Or like speed education is what this is. Absolutely. Speed learning. And so I'm doing okay. I appreciate it. I am looking forward to the next maybe hour and a half to kind of just listen. But Charles, thank you for the leadership you and Terry and Uhuru are bringing us on the ground, and the next phase is going to be really exciting.
I appreciate it, David. And one of the things that's really interesting in this section for me, so I didn't make the last learning tour.
Right.
I go on many of these. I go on almost all of them, but I did not make this last one. I heard it was legendary.
It was, absolutely.
He's fired up about it. And so for me, I get to learn about Jeffery. I get to learn about how it went and how it catalyzed people. And then we get to explore some unfamiliar area for me. So I get to learn live in front of all of you about this section of Common Power, which, you know, the organization that David, you and I helped to found and that we love so much, and we kind of give every waking moment to. So this is going to be exciting for me. Learn live in front of all y'all with one of these talented teachers.
I'm going to be watching, Jeffery. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, Jeffery. Oh my goodness, sir. I've heard so much about you. Okay. And let me tell you, I heard about you not just in preparation for this, but I don't know how well you know Dr. Terry Scott, but she kind of live messages how she's feeling in a moment, especially when she's feeling inspired. And I got to tell you, at least twice your name came across my phone as one of the people. Like, she was sending me quotes from people on the learning tour, and she goes, "Hey, you got to meet this guy, Jeffery White. He's amazing. He just did this thing. He just read some poetry or recited some poetry." So I feel like I'm in for a real treat this hour, and we're going to hear a lot from you. That is some of the stuff that you've done in your life, but also what you're working on. But tell me about this learning tool. Tell me what was it like for you? And I know that's a big question, but what was it? What did it feel like? We're going to talk about something different than what we've been hearing about before, which is, what were the emotions that you went through as you started this journey that starts in Atlanta, and you get to, there's like strangers you meet, you know, that are doing the same work as you, but you don't know most of them. You get on this bus for 3 hours going from Atlanta to Alabama, and then you start to meet these people who made history, and you do it over the course of 3, 4, 5 days. What was that emotional journey for you like?
initially when you think about and you hear about educator tours, you think of a teacher PD, right? We learn, we get lectured to, kind of boring. We don't really benefit from it because it's things that we've already heard or heard of. And as a Black man, there was not much that I haven't been exposed to or haven't researched or learned about in my life about my Blackness that I haven't already heard. And I wasn't expecting this experience. It was truly transformative, from the beginning, from the Zooms when we first met to the creation of a group chat through WhatsApp that we created, that organically happened, right? The community started way before the trip. And it was the first time in a very long time that I met with a collective group of individuals and all of our energies aligned. It was spiritually aligned. And the trip.
Why do you think that was? Because it was magic. I heard about that.
It was magical.
The first messages I got, Terry was like, they're already starting to talk and we haven't traveled. What do you think was it the moment in time? Is it the like-mindedness?
Absolutely. I think it was the moment in time. I think it was, we were all in alignment. I will say that for me, I'm a very spiritual person, and I would say that we were spiritually aligned. And every moment, we built community, we uplifted each other. It was truly transformative. We prayed together, we cried together, we laughed together, we ate together, we sang together. It was truly something special. I've experienced some great things in my life, but this is top three on the things that I've experienced in my life for sure. Truly life-changing. And I'm sure you're going to hear that throughout this time with the other educators that are going to join us on this teach-in that were on the trip with me. It was truly transformative from the just the community, building brotherhood and sisterhood. I haven't stopped talking to these people since we came back to our prospective states and homes. That's how strong that's how strong the bond was. And truly for me, and how transformative it was is not only being able to be face to face and learn and hold hands with the people who made sacrifices for me to exist in this world today, for us to have this conversation. It was the moment of walking across that bridge, the Edmund Pettus Bridge, and we, held hands and sang. And I felt the ancestors surround me, and in that moment, I was filled with emotions, and I had to walk away and separate, and I just couldn't hold it anymore, and the tears just fell. And a woman, one of the people, my sisters from the trip, came with me, Faye, and just kissed me and said, the sacrifice was for us, so we can pass the torch, so we can take care of the mantle, right? As I crossed that bridge, I truly felt that I stepped into my purpose that God has put me on this earth to do. That's how transformative it was. And that is why I'm here today. And that's why I am following what Common Power does and what you all do, because you truly allowed me to transform into the person that I was supposed to be and put on this earth to be.
Wow. That's some heavy stuff. And I got to say, so that it doesn't matter how many times Terry's been on one of these learning tours. She was so moved by you all being moved. And part of the reason why we do this is because we need to be fed too. People ask us, how can you travel so often and how can you be away from your families? And it's because of y'all. Right. Because we need this in the fight. Y'all help feed us. It is reciprocal. It is an entire system that we feed each other, and we understand that's how it's always been. We didn't invent this. This is how they've always done it for generations. So you had this experience, but you arrive as somebody already.
Absolutely.
Somebody who's like, I want to be a teacher when I grow up. You're already doing the good work. You're already sacrificing for the next generation. Tell us about exactly what your expertise is in, and who is Jeffery White when you arrive? Who do we know you as?
I am a nuanced individual, a creative, a writer, a thinker, a researcher, a social advocate, a leader. I started my professional journey in undergrad in a school called College John Jay College of Criminal Justice, studying international criminal justice and human rights. And there, my research focused on the intersectionality of international criminal justice and human rights. And then I went on immediately after that to Columbia University to extend my research that I started in undergrad in my BA and that was in human rights and social stratification, which is just a fancy way of saying statistical analysis of police brutality statistics. And then I transitioned to my second master's at Brooklyn College in special education policy with a focus on urban education policy. But throughout those experiences, what sparked my interest and what motivated me and catapulted me in becoming an educator is one, my own understanding and thirst for knowledge, right? It wasn't until college, meaning the end of my senior year of high school, going into college and being presented with Paulo Freire's The Pedagogy of the Oppressed and Michelle Alexander's New Jim Crow, that I really understood the things that I witnessed growing up in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, right? Seeing police brutality, seeing people be beaten in front of my doorstep, right? Instead of in front of my bed, not understanding it, just witnessing it, hearing those sirens and seeing those ambulance lights. But now I can contextualize. Now I can understand why those things existed, and I was living through all those things, not knowing, and now I know. And then in undergrad, what sparked my interest in going into public ed is because I used to actually teach at Rikers Island Correctional Facility, youth offenders there. And throughout that experience, it really awakened something in me. And I said to that day that with my understanding and my research and my growth, I'm devoted to ending and eradicating and dismantling this school to prison pipeline that exists, that allowed these young Black men and women to get to this point, right? This system of mass incarceration, this prison industrial complex, every aspect that has relegated our people to second-class citizens in this society. I've devoted myself in doing that, and that starts with education, right? Because when we're long gone from there, the mantle has to be, passed on, and that is our youth. And I believe in that because that was poured into me, and I truly know and understand what that does and the power in it.
That's beautiful, man. Talking about seeing certain things and thinking, why is this happening? And then understanding that it was a system that caused these things. Absolutely. And how do we dismantle that? And what do we replace it with? That's it sounds like this is something you were called towards. This is not just, I'm going to choose from all these different things. You're like, I got to do this. This is right here in front of me.
Absolutely. And the only thing that was keeping me back was the fear. But on this trip, being around the people that truly sacrificed and almost died, and seeing them stand in front of me for me to have this existence and this opportunity to just take on the torch truly inspired me and lit that flame that I needed. And it's hard work, it's draining, but I have to fight because my life has afforded me with experiences to build that resilience, right? Me being my Black existence is just an act of resilience in and of itself. So I know that this is what I was called to do. Absolutely.
Amen. Okay. So you leave this experience and you are on fire. Not only do you feel like you've got people beside you who are going to fight with you, but you also directionally maybe have chosen like of this velocity now. I'm moving, I'm ready to go now. What's the first thing that you do? And you probably, this is probably the last day on the learning tour or maybe on the plane, you start lining things up to take action today. What is the next thing you do right after the learning tour?
Absolutely. I actually was inspired. So I'm actually in the school that I teach in outside of my professorship at adjunct professorship at John Jay. In the public school that I teach in, we are organizing a Pride Fest. So we are celebrating the LGBTQ plus youth and siblings of our school, teachers and students. And as you know, currently in Florida and throughout the South, there are bans against LGBTQ folks, trans individuals, bans on drag queen storytime readings, because it is thought that we are indoctrinating students or kids into this lifestyle, which is not chosen, but you are born as. So I'm actually organizing a protest or opposition of sorts where I'm bringing in, we are, not I, but we are, as an amazing group of individuals that I'm working with, are bringing in a drag queen, and we're going to stream, just like you all are today, across the nation, a live drag queen reading in opposition of all those things.
Okay. Wait, so this is the moment to plug it. Tell us some more about it. Let's dig in on that.
So this is going to be on June 13th,
Okay.
around 3:30 p.m. Eastern time, because I am in New York. We're going to have registration similar to the process of joining this call. But it's truly an act of resistance against what is happening right now in our society, right? I'm a person for equity, right? The reason why the individuals during the civil rights movement were fighting for voting rights was because it was a dismantling of systems, right? And it was a trickle down, a domino effect that opened up opportunity for all individuals, right? So I'm not stopping at my blackness. I am stopping for equity for all. And that's what I truly am fighting for.
Okay. So you've got this event. Say it again, June 13th.
June 13th, around 3:30 p.m.
3:30 p.m.
Yes.
Okay, and we're gonna get that information. Terry, I'm looking at Terry.
Yes, I'm gonna share with you all. Yep, it's happening.
She gave me the thumbs up right now. She said we're gonna send that means it's done. It might get done tonight. Okay, Terry look, she's on fire.
I love it.
Here trying to stay awake and
right.
She ain't got her kids with her, she's about to get to work.
Mm-hmm.
She can't go to sleep, she says. Okay. And honest to goodness, she's so proud of the work you're doing, and the fight that you've got with you right now is just, we want to keep it going. And there are a bunch of people. Last time I looked, there were 200 people still watching the stream right now. So this is ready to help you out.
It's not easy.
People are ready to fight. They're ready to fight. Okay, so let's continue on, because the other thing that you said you wanted to highlight, and Terry mentioned, this is one of her text messages to me. She said Jeffrey wants to talk about STEM, but he wants to talk about racism in STEM. Exactly. And that it's a topic that, while immediately like unsurprising, yes, racism in something. If you're watching this, that's not a surprise. Mm-hmm. But in STEM, and in something that's supposed to be very non-emotional, numbers involved, and I'm speaking as lay people, this is supposed to be science, right? So how is there racism in this? Wait, what is that concept?
This is what I often hear from my colleagues. That is not a space where we can talk about that, right? We can't talk about, incorporate aspects of race and ethnicity and identity in the STEM field. However, the foundations of our nation allows us to do that, or afforded us with that. So for me, when we do not teach the truth, we are perpetuating historical oppression in the same way that Black people of color, were prevented from attaining an education during slavery, during Jim Crow, with the goal of maintaining a racial hierarchy of white supremacy. So we perpetuate that system by erasing history that can truly liberate our students, of which was the same fear that slave masters had during the Fugitive Slave Act. So how we primarily perpetuate structural racism throughout this nation, or really this world, is through education, or really the miseducation. So when you choose to miseducate students and say this is not the space for that, you are preventing them from being liberated. And that is truly how we are suppressing and oppressing people and continuing that oppression. So for me, it is a space for everything. So I do it in different ways. So for an example, there's a new understanding in science of epigenetics. So epigenetics is the study of how behaviors and environment can cause changes that affect the way your genes work, so your DNA works. Unlike genetic mutations, which are permanent changes in DNA, epigenetics changes are reversible and or do not change your DNA sequences or the bases within your DNA, but they can change how your body reads the DNA sequence. So it's not actually a change in the sequence, or really rather changes in the structure. So this understanding of epigenetics started around the research of post-World War II. An experience called the Dutch Hunger Winter occurred around 1944, 1945. And during this time, people in the Netherlands were starved of food as a result of generations later. And later, their children and their grandchildren were observed to suffer from increased rates of metabolic issues, for example, diabetes, high blood pressure, and even schizophrenia. And it wasn't just the children that were conceived during the famine, but the children that were conceived afterward, as if the gametes, meaning the sperm and egg, had a memory of the trauma, of that stress, well beyond the years of the famine, which sparked questions in the scientific community of how can memory, a message of trauma, live in sperm and egg? And how is that being passed down? This is the same idea that can explain the nationally accepted statistics and high rates of diabetes and high blood pressure and gout amongst Black individuals. For example,
Okay, pause 1 second, 1 second.
a lot.
I will pause for 1 second because that was a big thing you did there, and I wanna call this out because this is so common in any kind of research field. What you just did was we had to go up north to Europe
Always.
and use an example of with white people
So,
and get to go, yes, this
and I'm gonna
exists.
get to us.
Yeah,
And
right. But you had to start there. This is what we have to do often. You had to start there, and now you're about to tie it back. I just wanted to call it out for everybody. Like
that is always the case.
To get to
That
this.
is always the case. So yeah, we explain this concept of epigenetics, right? So this understanding that racial traumas can be passed around. So one thing that I teach, or we have to teach about in high school biology, or STEM science classes, is about glucose regulation, hypertension, and homeostasis, which is the internal balance of our body. So we often mention that people of color hold the highest rates of diabetes and high blood pressure. And then students are left to believe that people of color lead a life of unhealthy diets. But an explanation of epigenetics can explain this national acceptance and understanding, right? Because the true understanding and what we don't teach our students, which I teach, is that black slaves were given scraps and from their slave owners, parts of the animals with high sodium, tough cuts of meat that needed to be fried to be edible, which ultimately contributed to unhealthy outcomes, diets, metabolic issues, hypertension, gout, and diabetes, right? And that diet was passed down from generation to generation. So that explains the true statistics of why people of color have higher rates of diabetes and hypertension. But we don't talk about that, right? We take that away from our education. So you're like, how does that incorporate or connect to STEM and science? There it is. Research, information, knowledge is power.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Hey, Terry, you're right. You're right. This is right here. Okay. Okay. So is this like standard in your classrooms? You're starting to weave this kind of thing in?
Oh, I didn't start. This is my life. So yes, so everything that I create in my class, I create readings that I give to the students myself. So all of this original literature that I weave into my classes from the beginning of each unit, identifying a sciences of a unit, because when we think of scientists, we think of white men, European men, right? And those students are like, I can never be a scientist, and that's what I call my students. But they see themselves, right, in the science, right? And one woman who is leading the charge in epigenetics is a beautiful Black woman named Dr. Bianca Jones Marlin at Columbia University, who's leading this charge in understanding how epigenetics and how racial trauma is passed down from generation to generation. So she is one of our scientists of the unit. So you can start from there, and then you intertwine it within your education, because it's not taking away from the standards, guys. It's not doing anything of the sort, but it's giving the students the knowledge and the power to understand the why and the criticality behind numbers, like you said earlier, STEM, math, numbers and figures and charts and concepts and phenomenon and theories, right? That is our job as educators, to be able to supplement, to be able to tell and share the truth behind those things.
So you've been doing this. This is something you've been doing. And how long have you been teaching for?
This is about 8 years I've been teaching.
Okay, so you've been teaching for 8 years. This is the way you've been teaching.
Absolutely.
I can imagine as of late, that method of teaching has run up against some walls. Can you talk about what it's like to teach today and use your race? And this is an underhand. I'm sorry, it's a softball for you right here. What is it? What is it like? Because you're like, I've been doing this. This is why y'all love me. This is why you chose me. I get paid. And then all of a sudden, it's totally different.
As we know, there's always going to be opposition in this work. But truly, is pushing through the opposition and understanding my purpose and my place that has been helping me sustain and be able to not be drained from it all. Outside of all this, I lead racial equity groups, so it runs through my blood. But the opposition that I've faced from my white colleagues, or even colleagues of color who don't understand why do we have to? Because it's necessary. It is the power, and it is a struggle every day, every year. And one of the things that my colleagues had to remind me of is that I always used to focus on the outliers, the ones who are not doing the work, the ones who are so resistant. And I'm forgetting about the ones, the allies, the ones who are doing the work, right? And that's truly who I focus on. So it took me a point in my career to say, hold up, Jeffrey, slow down. These are your people. We are going to get everybody there, but you have your allies, you have your group, you have your community, and they will lead the charge with you.
I got to say, and I thought about this in preparation for this. And as you're talking about the adversity you face, my brother, my younger brother is a STEM teacher as well. He teaches chemistry in Boston. I don't know how much we talked about Boston tonight, but Boston's a pretty racist city. And he is, you're a brother in STEM, and you know how many of you there are. It's probably this many. It's probably you and him.
There's only 3 of us in my building. So
okay.
That's a lot.
There you go. And he's the only Black person
right
on his faculty, and he's run into a lot. And he puts in every single day. He works on this, and that's with all the headwinds. So shout out to Cortland, Ferry Douglas in Boston, who fights every day in the STEM field and knows very well the impact of racism everywhere in schools across America. So the other piece, and this is so interesting because I think you defy norms and expectations just in general, brother. You just do it, and it seems effortless for you. But you're a STEM teacher who has this focus on race, and then and this is another text from Terry. She's like, this brother just read poetry. This brother's over here reciting poetry.
Listen, mental health is very, very important. And in order for me to sustain and to be sane within this hard work and the opposition that I face, days it is exhausting. It is draining. I have to balance. So how I balance is the creative side. So I write poetry. I actually am a performer, spoken word poetry in cafes and open mics and competitions, but also I act. I love, I'm a man of music, but that is where I thrive, is the creative realm, because it's so different, right? And I'm able to pour out my heart in it all and let it all out. And I actually prepared something for you all today at the end of the session, if you would have me to share a couple of poems with you all about my experience.
Yes, please
living
do.
As a Black man and understanding this reoccurring history that we constantly face over and over and over. All right, so I'm going to share my first piece. It's called "And All These Truths I Hold Are Self-Evident." A little water. All these truths I hold are self-evident. The hollow theater of my chest swoons with echoes of a heartbeat yearning for the sounds of freedom's bells to revive it. Let freedom ring are the screaming voices of my feet as they sink into the blood of my brothers and sisters' shattered souls, taken by hooded men, cloaked in gold shield and navy blue. Strange fruit lying in the street, younger than noon, I am standing beside his open casket. His black body, the forgotten fossils of a skeleton aching city barred by a hashtag, a relegated dysphoria of cosmic untruth and labeling, justifying the destruction of a golden sun-kissed soul that just wanted to dance with vibrant jubilee and joyful tapestry. It is a never-ending merry-go-round of history, people accepting it, saying it was meant to be, but we cannot. We should not and we will not accept the unjust fate of Black bodies hanging from a bluebird's beak. We must stand up and show them that we have never been invisible. Tell them that they have never been invincible. This is me running from burning sands and cotton fields, marching because I dropped my croaker sack a long time ago. This is me affirming that this Black body matters because I'd said so. Because this Black body is coal pressed into diamond. This Black body is ox, lion, and panther. This Black body was born in the deep silence of a long-suffering heart, not joy. This Black body is greater than mountains, higher than skies. This Black body matters. And I need you to know that if you are not brave enough, if you do not believe that you are the total sum of all light and courage, if you relegate our stories to spark notes, you will bleed out and die in the prologue. Because the reality is our wings will never be wide enough, stretched wide enough to cover the sins of this country. The sin that a Black neck held high will always be decorated by a noose, but a cautionary tale that must be broken. And all these truths I hold are self-evident. Thank you.
My goodness. Wow. Okay.
Appreciate
All
you.
right. I just want to tell you, Terry came over and said you read that outside of. Oh, was it a different one?
That was a new one. This is the first time I performed that one for them. But
That was a new one. Okay.
If I have time, I would love to perform the second one for you all.
No, please do. Oh, no, please do. But I just want to say that Terry heard you reading that, and she was like, you know, he read his poetry outside of the HI Museum, and it was, you said it broke you?
Yeah,
All right. That's coming from Dr. Terry Scott. Right.
That's why I'm like honored. Appreciate you.
Yes. All right, brother. Give us one more.
And the last one is called Still the Question. Shh. Do you hear that? Do you hear the jangle of the shackles? Do you hear the cries of my people? Hear them hum? Hum the hymns of God's grace, power, and mercy to get them through. Do you see the beads of sweat glistening on his dark chocolate skin as he stands in the blazing inferno, picking that white soft fluff? But wait, can you see him? He is running for his freedom. Run, boy, run. Can you hear that? The crackle of the whip as it cuts through the veins on his hardened black skin. Red droplets of anguish begin to ornament the light brown dirt, then flow down his spine like Niagara Falls on crooked mountains. Can you feel it? Can you? Can you feel the earth shake and rumble beneath your feet as if a Tidal 8 earthquake had shaken this earth, ending all oppression, bending history into concession? Can you hear them sing the songs of liberation? We shall overcome. We shall overcome. But we can't hold their lives anymore. Their souls are detained in an inhabited incubator, some of which were determined by hooded men disguised as justices, adjudicators, a man forcibly stretched out on the ground screaming, I can't breathe. Do you hear them chanting, affirming, and demanding again that Black lives matter too? Like they mattered when my ancestors were beaten in scorn. Like they mattered when my brother was shot while marching, hanged from trees fighting for my glory. While they mattered when my sister pleaded to stay another day outside of that cold gray barred cloak. And as they mattered before a navy blue uniform became justified ammunition for the annihilation of stained pigmentation as you listen to this poem. Picture these pictures painted in demonic paintbrushes. A land so far gone from what God created to do and be, but there is a question that still remains. It lingers in the whispers of the wind. I hear it at night asking me to ask you, what will you do to change it? Thank you.
We started this and we spent a lot of time talking about how you were affected by this learning tour. And I hope you can realize that other people and how they came away from this had something to do with what you gave people on that trip. Thank you. Thank you for the exchange. Thank you for taking and for giving. Because what you just gave just now, my goodness. Future is bright, brother, with you helping the way. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you.
It's truly honored to be a vessel. It's truly an honor to be a vessel, and that's all I am. A vessel for this change, vessel for this work. And no matter how much they're going to try to silence us, we will not be silenced.
That's right.
And that is what this moment is about.
That's right. That's right. Man, okay. Well, we got two other folks who are coming after you who went on the learning tour. I think I've got Jordan here too. And
My brother.
Before we have you go, I want to see if we can get him on the screen as well if he's here. Because I hope he was able to hear that again and hear the new one. Tell me, so you reacted to that. Tell me about Jordan. What was that? What was that like?
No, that's my brother. I've gained so many brothers and sisters from this trip, and truly we bonded and we connected. And like I said, he's one of the people that I didn't stop talking to since the trip, because it was truly a brotherhood that is undescribable. It's an energy that I can tell you as much as I can, but it was a feeling, it was a spirit, it was an energy that you have to be on the trip to understand. And I can't promise you that anybody else who applies on this trip and goes on this trip will experience what we experienced, but it was truly something special. And when you meet him, you understand why. Amazing brother in the fight with us. And there was a moment of myself, Jordan, and two other brothers, Andrew and Christian, and we just naturally knelt in front of Bernard Lafayette. And if you're not familiar with Bernard Lafayette, he was who marched with MLK over the Selma March. And he was just sharing his stories. But it was a powerful moment, and I'm sure that we can share it on the Common Justice social media, of us just kneeling in front of him, and the four Black men just there holding the stories, the history, and just him just virtually just passing on the torch. It was just a powerful moment. And that energy of us just being there in community and brotherhood, it's truly indescribable. Truly.